Family-professional partnerships are not just between the family and one provider. Partnerships, especially for families with children with autism, involve multiple professionals, agencies, and community partners that need to work together to provide quality care. Parents need to feel empowered to facilitate the communication between these parties and advocate for their needs across providers. Professionals need to recognize their role within a greater team. Oftentimes, a plan needs to be in place to communicate the role within the greater team. The entire team should have an understanding of the services provided to the family and perceived impact of engagement within the team.
Joshua has a lot of people in his life. We have our family, and we have our church family and extended family. But then we also have medical professionals that work with him, and we have school professionals that work with him. And so it's important that we all know that each other exists, because we all have little pieces of the puzzle, and also that we know that everybody has different perspectives and we work together for Joshua's best interest. One of the things that recently happened with Josh, where we collaborated with lots of professionals, all the professionals and our family, was his last IEP meeting. Josh was getting ready to go to high school, and so we're having another transition. It was really successful because we all listened to the other's point of view, and sometimes, I would have ideas and the school would say, well, this might not work, but something else will. Or Boone County Family Resources case manager would say, have you thought about this? And the schools hadn't thought about that. So it was really helpful to have all those minds together.
Students with autism often have many providers, as families are working with a host of different individuals on maximizing their child's goals. Sharing information is incredibly important. I feel that sometimes, especially when there is a lack of trust, that families are less inclined to maybe want to share certain things that are happening outside. And when that happens, we aren't able to work in construction with those families. We want to make sure we know what the family's goals are and what those goals are working with outside providers. And if we're able to work together, we're going to definitely get better outcomes than if we are working in contrast.
I empower families to make decisions and advocate for their child by providing information. So I try to connect them to different resources in the community, or even just different people who have access to resources that I don't, or their family doesn't already have access to. That way they can kind of make informed decisions and talk to the people they need to in order to advocate for their child.
When working with families, as medical, we're part of a team. Part of a team of educators, of behavioral therapists, other health providers for that child, and working with that family and where they see us fit in that team is vital to that child's success. We find it very helpful to talk with other providers. Through the health system here at MU, families can log in and access their own health information to share with other providers. To be able to help partner with the school system and with the other professionals working with that child in other arenas has been very helpful when we're making collaborative decisions about that child's medical care.
Individuals with autism a lot of the times have multiple providers working with them, even at the same time on the same day, which can be really confusing. So collaboration is really important at moments like that, because all of our roles are complementary, but sometimes overlap in a lot of ways, and we get a lot of good information, and sometimes we get differing information or information that complements each other. So being able to work together and share that information effectively is really important. A lot of the times it gets left up to the family to communicate from one provider to another, which can be really burdensome for the family. So I, in particular, try to ask for permission and get through to be able to either email or call other providers so that I know what's going on in other contexts.
The type of partnership that I found most valuable is one of mutual respect, where the parent sees the advantage of working with the professional and sees, that the professional does have training in areas that maybe they don't have training, and also where the professional sees that the family member is kind of the expert and knows that child and lives with that child every day. So it's kind of that mutual respect.
A primary role within the team that at times is not addressed is the voice of the individual with autism. From a young age, individuals with autism should be encouraged to be an active participant on their team to the extent that they are able to. Families and professionals should consider ways to encourage individuals with autism to share their opinions, make choices, and communicate preferences. As a child ages, this role can evolve to be a primary team member who communicates their needs and wants effectively.
There is a time in the near future where Rye participates in his own IEP meetings. And I think that the way to approach that is just to give him time in that meeting. That's dedicated time for him to talk about it. Say, we want you to think about what you want to say in your meeting tomorrow. What do you want? What do you want to be? Express that. Are there things that you don't like? And you need to maybe even have them write those things down so that they feel prepared when they go into a meeting just like the rest of us.
And working with adolescents, a lot of the times the way I try to help empower them to make change in their own life is by asking questions. So a lot of times I ask them, do you know why you're here and what this is supposed to be helping with? Because sometimes at that stage of life, they're still following along with what parents are asking them to do and are not necessarily yet thinking about what they want for their own lives and how other people can be a resource to them.
Some of the ways that I would like for everybody on the team to start involving Joshua in this partnership is just to ask his opinion, to invite him to meetings, to not talk around him or talk about him, but talk to him. Encourage him to ask questions and to give his opinion because it's his life.
Professionals can empower Rye by just allowing him to be himself for a little bit. It's that whole, the first couple of minutes of a therapy session or an appointment or class, you have to give him that time to be comfortable in that setting, to get comfortable to you, to get comfortable to change, to transition from what he was just doing 5 minutes ago. And then once he feels comfortable, then you can really take off. I think that where the biggest challenges are with Rye is when he has to move from one thing to another too quickly. Those transitions, especially with kids on the spectrum, but with anybody, we all need time to decompress from this and to move on from that.
Regardless of the student's disability, we are always looking to incorporate that student into our IEP meetings as much as possible. For a student with autism, given the communication difficulties that they do have, it can even be more challenging. With autism spectrum disorder, there is a spectrum of abilities. So our very, very high functioning autism student can very much be a central role in being a part of those meetings, really thinking about what do you want, what are your post-secondary outcomes, thinking about those work experiences, thinking about how we can incorporate their goals into our transition plan so that we really are aligning and partnering with the student and the family in working towards their goal post-high school.
The need or level of support has changed, not necessarily increased or decreased, but has changed. We're going from, ABA to speech and language therapy. We're going from speech and language therapy to, transitioning into the workforce. It's just like having a kid, like you start out in diapers and then you move to other needs. Parenting never gets easier or harder, it just changes. It's more fluid.
Sometimes we're talking through what the latest steps in that child's development were, and family doesn't really want advice from me. They just want me to be a champion or cheerleader on their team to just be excited about the successes of their child. And other times they're at a point where they're needing me just to listen and to be there to kind of walk through some of the next steps that they need to take as they move into some of those steps where they're seeing those successes again.